My next guest makes her highly anticipated MMA debut coming up here. Borroka 1, November 22nd. It is right around the corner. It is Forrest Molinari joining me here on the program. Forrest, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, I'm stoked. Really happy. And I know a lot of people in the wrestling community are very happy to see you have this fight as well. For people who don't know, you can do a quick Google search, but I mean, your accolades are pretty impressive. I wanted to start first, though, with why was now the right time to make that pro debut? Like, you're not even doing an amateur fight. You're just jumping right into the pros.
No, I've been competing at, quote unquote, the professional level for such a long time with wrestling, wrestling at the highest level. It's not like I've never wrestled in front of a crowd of 20,000 people or
Right.
wrestled under bright lights. So I think a lot of times for new fighters, they've never had that experience before, but I'm a different kind of case where I have wrestled at the world championships and I have wrestled at Olympic trials. So that crowd doesn't bother me. I like it. It's awesome to get to wrestle in front of 20,000 people. um so I just didn't feel like I needed the amateur fights, and also just knowing how hard it was going to be for me to get a fight. I mean, we had 15 girls in a row say
Wow.
no before
Okay.
I got this girl to say yes, offering them more money. Like, just nobody wanted the business. And what's even crazier about that is there's no really like fight footage of me on YouTube or social media. I know there's just wrestling stuff, and people still wouldn't take the fight. So I just didn't want to waste time with amateurs. I feel like I'm ready to go pro right off the bat. I feel really good about where I'm at right now. I think I'm ahead of schedule development wise. So just after Olympic trials earlier this year, not making the Olympic team, I just needed a change. And I've been knowing I want to fight for a long time, and it just felt like it was finally the right time to make the move over to MMA.
Okay. When did you actually start training MMA for people who might be wondering?
I would do maybe a workout here or there the last 4 years or so, but not anything consistent. I did go down to Brazil twice, once in 21 and once in 22, down to Pitbull Brothers in Natal. And I stayed there for a week the first time, and I stayed for 3 weeks the second time. And so that was the only full-time MMA training I've done in the last 4 years until right after Olympic trials. I think I took a week off, and then very start of May went head first into MMA, and here we are 6 months later, ready to go.
Are you a fan as well? Like, do you watch all the fights? And if so, do you have any like favorite fighters you enjoy watching?
Now they're retired now, but I love studying film too, like we do in wrestling. Just studying high level people or people who have great specific skill sets. So I love studying Habib. I love studying DC. I love studying John. So I'm very excited for the fight this weekend with John and Stipe. Um,
And Bo
so I would
Nickel as
say
well.
those.
Speaking of wrestling, we got a pretty
Yeah, right.
notable wrestler
And
on the
Bo's
card,
on
right?
the card as well, and he's
Yeah.
been doing really, really good. And he's a fierce competitor. I know that, so I think he's gonna do very well in MMA.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty awesome to see all the wrestlers come over as well. One thing I wanted to ask you before we dive into kind of obviously your fight and the camp and all that. What do you make of like the Dagestani wrestling? I know it's different than American, but it seems to be like the thing right now. We see all the all the success that they've had from Islam to before that Habib, Umar Nurmagomedov. What do you make of sort of the Dagestani takeover, so to speak, in MMA?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar on the wrestling side. If you're from that region in Dagestan, they have like, probably the best wrestling in the world over there, on the men's side. And they have, I mean, their depth is so, I mean, it's so deep over there that they have to send so many wrestlers to wrestle for other countries. Um, and when you look at the men's side at World Championships or the Olympic Games, like there's a lot of Dagestani guys in there. Half the brackets probably from Dagestan, and that's just on the wrestling side. Now you're talking about one of the best regions in the world, if not the best region in the world for wrestling, and all the fighters are getting to feel those level of guys, that are true wrestlers. Like, of course, they're gonna have amazing wrestling. Um, so that part, I mean, it's not a surprise to me as someone who's very familiar with the Dagestani wrestling. I know that those guys are taking over. And I mean, I think to be able to beat those guys, you got to be able to hang in the wrestling department. I mean, that's why people say wrestling's number one in MMA.
Yep. Well said. Let's talk about your opponent, Brigid Chase. What do you know about her? How do you feel like you match up against her here?
So we've done obviously film study on her, and she's kind of a karate girl. Uh, I know she likes to come out southpaw and kick a lot. I have a feeling she's gonna try to head kick me right off the bat. So bring it. I don't care. I'll be ready for everything. I already know her inside and out. So I'm very excited that one, we even got someone to take the fight. It's been a while of trying to get a fight signed, and I'm ready to just put on a show. Whether it comes from a KO, ground and pound submission, I don't care how the fight goes per se. I just know that I'm gonna maul her.
Training camp, who've been some of the main training partners? Who's been helping you get ready for this fight?
So I did get to spend. I've been out to Huntington Beach like 3 times training with Chris Cyborg to get her ready for her fight with Pacheco she just had and did phenomenal in. So it was cool to get to go out there a lot and just having a woman, one my size, two of that caliber, three she's the OG, she's the best to ever do it. So just getting to train with her as much as I have the last 2 months or so was huge for someone who's brand new, and even just getting ready for my own fight. I'm not just a dummy in there, like I'm taking in a ton of information while we're getting her ready for her fight. So that was huge for me. Hafa Guedes was also out there. She's the ADCC champ, pound for pound, #1 jiu-jitsu girl in the world right now. And then Holly Holm was out there the last week. Obviously, everyone knows Holly. So getting to be in a room with those women, I mean, I'm just taking in so much from all the different disciplines. And then here in Arizona, I train out of the MMA lab now,
Oh,
and
nice.
they are a phenomenal program. I just like the vibe in there. That's why I picked them out of all the gyms that I checked out this year. Is the vibe just fit. They're hardworking. They're in there every day. You know how like at other gyms, the beginning of the week everyone's in there, but by the end of the week you're losing people. Like those guys are in there every day, the whole team. So it's nice to go in there because I'm all about working hard, and they are too. There's a ton of 25, 35, 45 pounders in there. So I've got partners for days, which is awesome for me. And they were just very welcoming, and everyone I went with um, was very patient with me, where I had a lot to learn in the other disciplines, and they'd help me along. And I think that's a big reason why I've evolved so fast this summer, being brand new. So I mean, we got a bunch of big names in there. Like Marcus is fighting tomorrow on the
McGee,
Madison
yeah,
Square Garden.
309, yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
yep, he's fighting tomorrow. Mario Bautista just beat Jose Aldo. Huge, huge win. So there's just a lot of big names in there that, I got to work out actually with Mario this morning, and it was great for me. So like, how can I not be so excited to have that kind of caliber guys to be working out with? So it's just been really great there, and they've treated me well. So I'm very excited to represent them next week.
Um, what weight is this fight going to be contested at? Because I know you're, I think featherweight, 145 around there.
Yeah, I'm gonna start at featherweight just because I was wrestling at 68 kilos, which
That's
is
right. Yeah.
149. I've been at 68 kilos, and I was the smallest one in that weight class. So I spent 2 years building into it. So I'm gonna need a little bit of time to eventually. I know I need to eventually get to bantamweight, but I'm not gonna just try to do it right away. There's
No.
no need to right off
Then
the
you would have to
bat. Like,
focus
let
on it. You
me.
can focus more on your skill set because that is half of it, right? It's the weight cut is
Yeah.
the hard part, and then the obviously fighting is the easy part in some ways, right? So
Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm gonna take some time at 45, just while I'm getting my feet wet and learning everything and developing as a fighter. And then when I'm ready, when the timing's right, I'll go down to 35.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was wondering about that because obviously UFC's bantamweight. They haven't really done any featherweight. They haven't had a lot of featherweight activity since Chris left, right? So that's what I was sort of asking with that. Your corner, I imagine John Crouch will be in the cage with you. Who's going to be in your corner for this fight?
So yeah, I asked Crouch if he would be in the corner. And then Randy from MMA Lab as well. He's been, working a lot with me on striking, so I think it'd be good to have him there. And he's just real cool, dude. And then of course Mark Perry. Mark's been coaching me for the last 7 years in wrestling. He studies MMA as well. He's coached in the UFC. And he just knows me as an athlete and as a competitor, so of course I'm gonna have him in my corner. So those are my three for this fight.
And how's this fight playing out on November 22nd? How do you see it unfolding?
I don't know yet. People keep asking me that. And of course, being a wrestler, I think it would be cool if I did something different than like everyone's going to expect me to go take her down and submit her.
Mhm.
And if I do that, great. Like I won the fight. Cool. You know what I mean? I dominated. But if I knocked her out or just ground and pound TKO, like whatever happens, however it ends, we go all 15 and I just beat the shit out of her for 15 minutes. I don't care. I just want to maul her. That's my goal for the fight is to maul her. So whatever comes, comes, and I'm good with it.
Short term, I imagine just keeping active, just kind of building off fight to fight, not getting too far ahead of yourself. Is that kind of what your career goals are at the moment?
It's kind of hard just because a lot of promotions do want me, because I'm just bringing something different, but it's really hard to get fights.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, if the promotion wants me, that's great. But if you can't give me a fight, then I don't know if I really want to go with you. So I had a couple different avenues I was looking at, but for right now, I just want to be focused on this fight. I really want to make a statement this first one right out the gate, and then we'll see what unfolds after. But I'm
And
not rushing. Like a lot of wrestlers rush because they're so dominant right off the bat. And I'm trying to do this for like 10 years.
yeah,
I want to have a career in this. I'm not trying to just hop in and out. So I don't feel like I need to rush. Um, but we'll see what unfolds after.
yeah. I was gonna say because obviously I mentioned Bo Nickel. Obviously, he kind of had a pretty fast track if you think about it. Couple fights on the regional scene, gets in the UFC, and kind of learning on the job. But like you said, if you got a 10-year plan, you can kind of take it a little bit slower than that, right? So
Yeah, it really just depends. There's so many variables in it. Like with wrestling, the tournaments, like the schedule's kind of set for you and you can't really pick and choose. Like it's whoever shows up and is in your bracket, they're just in your bracket, right? But with fighting, it's so different. There's so many variables to it, so many different promotions, whether you can get someone to sign the contract or they don't drop out, So I kind of just have to go with the flow right now, and then we'll see what happens, and I'll just make choices as I go down the road.
talked all about combat sports. Do you have any hobbies outside of fighting besides wrestling and punching people in the face?
Yeah. I mean, I used to be a little more of a wild child when I was younger, and I would skateboard, longboard, ride BMX bikes. I've been riding dirt bikes my whole life. I still
Nice.
do that. I love riding dirt bikes. Um, I like to snowboard a lot too. Once the winter comes around, I'm up there almost every weekend if it's close enough to drive. Like Arizona Snow Bowl is only 2.5 hours, so I'm up there almost every weekend snowboarding. And but otherwise, yeah, I do train most of the time because I enjoy training,
Yeah.
like I enjoy learning like both wrestling and MMA and even cross training. But I would say riding dirt bikes and snowboarding are my two non-combat hobbies.
So I live in Vancouver, Canada. Have you ever been to Whistler before?
I have not.
Oh, you got to go. It's amazing. If you like snowboarding, it's like, I mean, they had the Olympics there and everything. So it's one of the
Okay.
super, notable places to go. Just saying, just throwing it
Yeah.
out there. It is Borroka 1 coming up here November 22nd. Stack card if people haven't seen it. Some really, really impressive names on this one, including my guest here, Forrest. If there's anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media you want to mention, I will give you the last word.
Yeah, definitely want to shout out a couple of my sponsors that have been riding with me for a while: Jimmy Bars, Super Patch, and Rise Energy and Supplements. They've been great to me, treat me really well. I love their products. I'm not real big on doing sponsorships with products that I don't back, so I really like their products. Check them out on my social media. My Instagram is Forrest underscore aka underscore snowflake. Uh, my Twitter is the underscore snow bear. So go and check those out. All the information's in my bios on those. So definitely want to say thank you to them. I want to say thank you to everyone that I've, gotten to train with this summer because I was out at American Top Team. I was at AKA. I was with Cyborg. I was with DC. So definitely want to thank everybody who was very welcoming and letting me come train as well. Of course, with the MMA lab, they've been amazing and they've really taken me in. So, that's my new home base. So, big shout out to the lab and everybody there. And then, lastly, definitely want to thank Mark Perry for just riding with me through wrestling and now into MMA as I'm transitioning into a new career and just being like, 100% supportive of this and helping me evolve into an MMA fighter.